Hey, lovely ladies. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy full moon. Just popping over into the group to make sure that we are live and that I can see everybody's comments. All right, we are live and in style. So the title of today's video is Why the Psychic Hotlines Are the Best Move for Your Spiritual Business. So if you are brand new to business in general, or you're going through some sort of rebranding, or you're even in a position where you want to pivot the direction that your business is going, no matter what level that you're at regarding your business and what you want to do and where you want to go, the psychic hotlines are really the answer to all of your prayers and all of your financial needs, your emotional needs, all of your needs. And I'm going to tell you why. So my girls have already done a really, really great job. Heather's done 2 live streams. Charlene's done a live stream. Maria's done a live stream. So if you haven't heard already, we are doing a webinar in 2 days, this Wednesday at 3 p.m. CST, 4 p.m. EST. And we did this a couple years ago, or was it last year? We did like a 6-hour video series a couple years ago, and that's in the Make Tarot Your Business archives. It's called Crushing It on the Psychic Hotlines. Hey Kai, happy full moon. And we did that, and it was like, okay, what you have to understand, first of all, is that there's no training out there that talks about the psychic hotlines. There's zero. We've looked. Trust me, we've looked. So whenever we were trying to figure out how the hotlines worked, how to actually make money on the hotlines, there was literally nothing out there to help us with that. So a year ago or 2 years ago, we ended up doing a 6-hour video series, and since then we are going to do another one because it needs to be updated a little bit. Some of the information is a little outdated, and so that's why we're doing this 2-hour workshop on this Wednesday. So there's nothing out there for this. Nobody teaches how to make money on the hotlines, and anything that you're going to find online is literally like very misleading. And that, we've all seen it. The hotlines themselves are advertised as like, make $10,000 this month and blah, 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 and they talk about like, even the hotlines themselves talk all about like helping to empower people and stuff like that. So first of all, it's very misleading because once you actually get to the hotlines, it's not like that at all. Hi, Heather. And so there's this whole, like, it's almost kind of like this dupe that happens between what the hotline is actually advertising and what they actually put out in terms of marketing to actually get clients to come to their website. Because what the hotlines usually market for the readers is a totally different work environment than what they're marketing for people to come into their website. Heather says, I'm stalking you today. Brandy says, nope, I've looked too myself, couldn't find anything to help me with the hotlines. Right. Nobody wants to talk about this. And the reason why is because it is such a controversial thing, and it's not a problem, but there's so many misconceptions and a lot of misleading that's going on that makes it almost too big of an issue to tackle by yourself. And so that's why I'm teaming up with these other ladies, my business besties, my friends that have been working with me on the hotlines for so long. I started on the hotlines in the end of 2011, 2012. So we're in 17 now. So that's like, 5 years? So, and I've worked on all of them. So, I have a lot of wisdom to share. And the thing is that there's so much to it that it's almost impossible for one person to kind of tackle. Hey, Maria. And then there's this whole other thing is that people don't like when people tell the truth about what the psychic hotlines really are. And it's not that the information is bad, or it's not that it's a negative place to work or anything like that. It can be a little bit jarring. It can be a little bit confrontational, conflict to kind of like get started in, because really, Charlene really hit this in her video, is that it teaches you so much about the psychology of people. It teaches you so much about how people think, that it's something that you're not really prepared for, And I also happen to be like a very introverted person, and socially introverted. Like, I really only hang out with people that I really like. So getting me to hang out and tolerate with people in general is a miracle. And then if you throw people like me who are really introverted and socially conscious and socially maybe awkward is the word, not awkward, but socially picky, right? Getting onto the hotlines can really be an experience that is very much a conflict of personalities, right? So when I first got onto the hotlines, I actually wrote up a post on Friday. If you missed it, it's in the group. Just look for it. It says it starts off with 2011 was the worst year of my life, and I go over a little bit about how I lost my job because the locations that I were at they were all closing, and they were just going to open up one new location, and it was just going to be like a really big salon instead of having 3 little salons around the metro. And basically they said I was out of work for 5 months, and it was up to me to figure out what I was going to do, how I was going to pay my bills. Well, I ended up not being able to replace that income right away, and I lost my car. My car got repoed. My husband got fired from his job because of some stupid, I won't go into it, but some stupid policy that really wasn't fair. Everything basically just happened. All the bad things just happened like at the same time, and which made it increasingly difficult. And so I had 5 months to myself, and I was like, okay. And in my story, I'll just do the recap, but I was, my father-in-law passed away. I was his caregiver for a couple of years. He had a stroke, and I ended up being the main caregiver for him. That's like, at 25 years old, that's a pretty hefty responsibility. But I believe that all of these traumatic situations, all of these traumatic things that happen to us, I believe that they're happening to us to make us stronger, to evolve faster, right? That's what Abraham says with the law of attraction, is that we choose these situations to show us contrast of what we do want versus what we don't want, and to help speed up our evolution. So at 25 years old, I was cleaning out. My father-in-law passed away. I had already buried 2 other fathers. My husband's stepfather passed away. My dad had passed away. And so this was like, I was having a very hard time. I questioned a lot of things, and I was looking for something. I was just looking for something. I was looking for something bigger than myself, right? I think a lot of us kind of come to tarot or psychic readings or something like that when we're in that. Lynn put it a really great way. She commented, the dark night of the soul, right? So we're always looking for something when we're in that traumatic situation. And I ended up finding my old deck of tarot cards, which is the Mythic Tarot, which is one of my prized possessions. It's now out of print, and mine is in pristine shape, so I'm really excited to have that still. And it got me thinking, like, I had done readings previously from 2009 or so. I started actually selling readings on eBay, but I was selling pendulum readings, just like yes or no, for $1, and then I was selling mediumship readings, I think, for $5, which it was like just a very basic mediumship reading. And I didn't use cards, I didn't use anything. It was just like pure channel. Alex says lifelong learner here, right? That's the ticket, is to just keep learning, I think. And so I found this deck of tarot cards, and I was like, I remembered that there used to be these commercials that would actually come on TV. And do you remember the Miss Cleo commercials? Give me a heart or comment, or give me a like if you remember those commercials. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, we always heard this thing like it was like a scam, or it wasn't real, or the psychics were reading from scripts or something like that. And I thought at the very, very least, like, you would have to go through some type of training, or you'd have to be really good, or like you have to be like totally unbelievable at what you do. So either, the general public regarding the hotlines thinks that either A, it's a scam, and so they don't call, or B, the psychics are rigorously tested, and it's some it's some major thing, you know, it's some magical, mystical thing, which it is. It totally is, but the view is a little bit different once you actually get to the hotlines and work there as a hotline worker. It's a little bit different. It's not as magical, is it? So I remembered those commercials, the Miss Cleo commercials, and I was like, you know, I wonder if that's like still a thing. I wonder if that is real, because she went through like this whole thing. You remember that whole fiasco of like she was being sued, and she was all this press about her business being like fraud and stuff like that. Heather says magical. Ha ha ha. No, right. It's not really as magical as we think. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look. And so I went inside, and I was eating ramens or some instant noodles, and because all at that point I could afford was instant noodles, rice, beans, lentils, tomato sauce, maybe cheese on occasion. Like, it was I was the brokest I've ever been in my entire life. And so I went inside and I started Googling. And before that, I had been Googling legitimate work from home opportunities. Hey, Susie, Marissa, nice to see you. Hey, Maria, nice to see you. And I replied to all of those ads. You know, we see them in the classified stuff, envelopes, and make $500 a day, or fill out surveys, or do secret shopping, that sort of stuff, right? So give me a heart or comment below if you've applied, if that was like one of your first stops on the way to trying to find some type of home-based business. I even looked, Barbara says, I remember Miss Cleo. She's like one of my spirit guides, for real. She's one of the coolest ladies that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing on the other side. She's really cool. So we're all looking for these opportunities, right? Susie says, I just got approved to be a reader on a psychic line. I can't wait to make some cha-ching. There you go. You got to go into it with the right mindset. We're going to talk about that here. So I started looking. I got nowhere with the other home-based business things. I got nowhere with it. In fact, I pretty much spent the last of my dollars and cents on scams and things that never did anything and the ones that were legit, I realized I'd have to, you know, I would be lucky if I ended up with like $5 for maybe 10 to 16 hours of work. You know, it's basically slave labor. And so remembering these commercials was really like a turning point in my life. We all have these points in our life where things completely change, right? And the way is shown. And that's what happened with me. A light bulb went off. I was divinely guided to this. There is no way that I thought I would ever become a professional tarot card reader and work on a psychic hotline. Like, that was not in the life plan for me. That was not at all what I wanted for my life. But these forces beyond my control have led me to this place, and I feel very much like this is the path that I'm meant to be on, because it's not something I could have ever thought up for myself, if that makes any type of sense. It's something that I was never even on my radar. So I've typed into Google, you know, psychic hotlines, and to my surprise, there was a bunch of them. There was pages and pages and pages of psychic hotlines. There was California Psychics and Keen Psychics and so many other ones, Psychic Source and so many other ones. And I just applied to the very first one. I didn't give it much thought. I didn't even know what I wanted. I just clicked on the first one, and I looked at the website, and at the very, very bottom I saw this very small text that says apply now or something like that. I was like, okay, maybe this is something, maybe not. I don't really have a lot of expectations or hope. I've only done a couple readings on eBay over the last couple years, and I don't know. At that point, I didn't even really know that much about tarot. I had been reading intuitively, but if you were to ask me like how many cards were in the deck, or what the anatomy of a tarot deck was, or what the Last Judgment card means, or any of the court cards, forget it. I just put those in a box. I didn't even want to look at the court cards. So this is before I even knew anything really about tarot cards other than what I had in the book that came along with the Mythic Tarot, before I even got any ounce of serious about studying tarot. So one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear from a lot of people who are interested in working in the psychic hotlines is they feel like for some reason they feel like they have to know a lot about tarot, or they feel like they have to be the super really good reader, like amazingly accurate, 100% accurate or whatever, before they can even get onto the lines. And that's just not how it is, because The Psychic Hotlines are one of the most amazing ways if you want to learn tarot. What I call it is street tarot. It's not your empowerment life path, make a plan, change somebody's life forever type of tarot that is kind of like the new thing that has come around, the new wave of tarot readers, the whole empowerment, transpersonal coaching, psychology, tarot reading hybrid. That's all fairly new in terms of popularity. But if you're talking about the last 10 years or so, it's all been prediction based. It's all yes or no. When is this going to happen? Am I going to get some money? When am I going to get the job? That type of stuff. Susie says street tarot. It's very street tarot. It's very lower chakra based. So a lot of us, when we go through our spiritual journey, that's when our higher chakras, our crown chakra, our third eye, our throat chakra, that's when those chakras get activated, right? And we start living more from the higher realms. That's part of the spiritual journey. But when you're dealing with street tarot type of readings, when you're dealing with the average person who is not on a spiritual journey, who is not really living from their higher chakras, you're going to deal with root chakra based stuff, which is the very mundane stuff. It's the pip card stuff. It's the earthly based stuff. It's the relationships, the sex, the money, the health, that sort of thing. And so remember the state that I was in when I first found the hotlines. When I had lost my job, my husband lost his job, our cars were repoed, we had no money whatsoever, and that state that I was in is the state that people are most likely calling you on the hotlines, because what they're really looking for is some type of hope. They're looking for someone to listen. They're looking for a reason to continue with their life, even though things are increasingly shitty and just getting shittier. Brandy says party trick reader. Right. Kind of, in a way. Kind of, yeah. It's Gypsy Tarot. Marissa says, I have actually gotten repeat clients on the psychic line with a blend of empowerment tarot and street tarot. Alex says, all they want to know is when is he going to call. Yeah, so if you haven't taken my Give the most epic tarot readings for love and relationships, if you haven't taken that, you're going to want to probably take that before you start on the lines here. Let me get you the link. 1 second. It's a $27 workshop. You're definitely going to want to pick this up, because this is the culmination of 5 years of working on the Psychic Hotlines. And as said, the relationship readings are the most common type of readings that you're going to get. It's all about love or finances, right? These very root chakra based stuff. So anyways, that was a tangent. So let me get back onto it. So the people that you are going to meet are typically not looking for some type of like empowerment session. Not typically. Sometimes they are. Sometimes there are people who come who really want help. They just don't know how to ask for it, and they don't know these higher concepts. Yeah, you know what shadow work is. Yeah, you know what the chakra system is. Yeah, you know what the law of attraction is, but these people really don't. These are just average people that need some type of spiritual help, and typically the church has let them down, or they don't have a good spiritual support system in where they live, something like that. Typically, they also really don't have a very supportive family, so they are coming to you as if, like, it's almost, the psychic hotlines are more like crisis hotlines, okay? Think of yourself as the priest during confession. That's what this is, just without the church, and with a little bit more of a magical, mystical, woo-woo type of flavor to it, right? Does that make sense with everybody? So the misconception is that you have to know everything about tarot. You have to know the numerology, the astrology. You have to know all of the cards. You have to be totally fluent in court cards, and you have to be able to totally transform someone's life. And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. You don't have to be, because they're looking to you for very basic things, right? So these trying to convert someone, trying to get them to change their belief system, it's just probably not going to happen. And that's where a lot of people get let down, I think, that start on the psychic hotlines, because they're thinking, oh, I'm going to help so many people, and I'm going to empower people, and I'm going to get people to change their lives. And when they actually get to the hotlines, it really doesn't look something like that. It's like that, but in a parallel universe almost, but it's not exactly that. It's not in that complete of a vision. Now, the thing with that is that there are levels to helping people. What might help someone right now, what might be more helpful to someone right now rather than you trying to change their belief system or empower them or get them to change their life, is just being that voice that listens to them at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're in a dark night of the soul, when they're wondering what's the point of, what's the point of living, or what's the point of even dating because all the guys that they like end up ghosting them or something like that, So you're meeting people at these very vulnerable, at these very raw, extreme archetypes of human nature, and it's usually something that is not negative in the sense of like being bad, but negative in the sense of, how am I trying to put this? Negative in the sense that there's not a lot of hope there. There's not a lot of future thinking. It's more about the right now. And we talk about this a lot in the group, and Charlene has talked about this a lot. Heather's talked about this a lot. Maria has also talked about this. And it's this concept of meeting people where they are at as being the most helpful recourse to actually helping people. So you can have all the tools in the world. You can know everything about spirituality. You can know everything about psychology, about human nature. But if the person who is across from you is not in a state of receiving that information, or does not value that information, or does not deem it as helpful, it is not going to help them in the moment. So the thing that I hear the most is that, well, I really wanted to get on the lines to help people. And what you need to do as a reader is to shift your frame of mind, shift your perspective on that, to not limiting your worthy, your adequacy as a reader, your usefulness as a reader, to being limited to transforming someone's life, which is great. If you can do that, awesome. If you have that superpower, that's great. But that does not determine how good of a reader you are. It doesn't determine how worthy you are to read. It doesn't determine how useful you are. It doesn't determine how effective you are. That is for your client, right? That's for your client to make that type of judgment. And there are some subtle clues that you can go off of how the direction is going to go with the reading, and what that, it takes time, it takes experience to be able to intuit where that's going. If you don't have a lot of experience, then you might not know, and that might be like some sort of point of conflict for you. But what I can tell you is that just time and experience is going to solve all of that. And of course, webinars with people who have done it before. Heather says, you said it more eloquently, but yes, what you said. Yeah. And so, I don't want readers here or anywhere to think that they're not helping people just because they're not transforming their lives. Us as readers, and psychic readers, tarot readers, oracle card readers, whatever it is you do, whether you read runes or, I Ching, whatever it is, you can do pretty much anything. Mediumship, whether you use no tools and you just use your psychic abilities. You can work on the hotlines and do all of those things. Even as a life coach, you can work on the hotlines and do all of those things. You just have to learn how to change your language to market appropriately to them. So I guess what I'm trying to say with that point is that there are levels to helping people, and what you feel is not helpful is not necessarily true. We put a lot of expectations on ourselves. We take all their certification courses, we go through all the classes, we work to refine our abilities, and we really want to give these profound readings, but at the end of the day, it's not the only thing that's going to make you worthwhile, right? It's not the only thing that people come to you for. Some people just come just to talk to you, just to have someone there, just to listen. And it's, like I said, it's more of a crisis hotline. So let's pivot a little bit and change that, because that's a little bit of a heavy realization, right? Like, all of you have started on the psychic hotlines, and you realize that it's a lot different than what you thought it was going to be. It's similar, it's a parallel universe, but it's not exactly what you thought. You may change 1 out of 10 people's lives, but in the average is that you're probably just going to play crisis hotline operator for the majority of them and get paid while doing it, which is totally cool. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about is that the psychic hotlines are really the best move for your spiritual business for a multitude of reasons. So the first reason is because it's going to up-level your skills. You're going to be able to put literally your psychic abilities on speed dial. A lot of us have these really elaborate rituals that we do to connect with clients. Some people like to meditate or, set up an altar and light some candles and really romance the ritual when it comes to doing tarot readings, which is really cool. That's a really cool experience. But I think what you have to realize is that at the end of the day, that's more for you when you're working on the psychic hotlines. It's not for them. It's for you and for your own state of mind. So the psychic hotlines are really cool in that you can learn to connect very easily with your source, with your psychic abilities, with your guides, your ancestors, your angels, whoever it is that you actually connect with, right? And that helps you if you have a spirit team. Most people do, but you might not. But if you do, you learn how to have more of you learn how to put your psychic abilities on speed dial in the sense that you don't need these elaborate rituals to be able to connect to people. It's really funny. I had one lady who basically tore into me one day, and she said that working on the psychic hotlines was unethical because there's not enough time to connect with people, or, she couldn't do this elaborate ritual. She couldn't meditate for 10 minutes on the question before doing the psychic reading and stuff like that. And she put this whole argument that it was unethical because you can't do that. And what the psychic hotlines taught me to do is that it taught me how to bypass the whole thing, which is cool if you do it. It's part of the experience, it's part of the ambiance for you as a reader, but it has nothing to do with your ability to give good and accurate tarot readings. Does that make sense? I know that might actually piss some of you off, and I'm sorry if that does, but it's the truth. Heather says, Maya has been watching all of the live streams. She did some tweaking on how she talked to people and made $100 on one call last night. So yeah, you can make good money. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about which hotlines I actually recommend for making the most money. Or, based on your personality. We're going to touch on that very, very briefly. We've already been talking here for a little while, so I don't want to go too long. But I do plan on talking about that too. And so you don't really need these rituals, right? And you can connect to people very quickly. And you learn how to do that by just, sometimes you can ask for their name, or you can just meditate on their username, or you can use cards, whatever you need to do. And just start saying what the cards say. You don't have to put up this elaborate thing. You don't have to do the show. What I liked the most about working on the psychic hotlines personally was that I could, show up to work in my pajamas and a comfortable t-shirt and my hair up in a messy bun, and I didn't have to do my makeup. I didn't have to wear heels. I didn't have to put on slacks. A lot like my day job that I was at. Like, I had to wear high heels, full face of makeup, hair had to be curled every single freaking day. And those of you who are like appearance conscious, you know how much work that is. It's a lot of work just to get ready to go to work, right? And so that's what I liked the most about it, is I didn't have to do not only these elaborate rituals for preparing for a reading, but these elaborate rituals of getting ready to prepare myself, my personal magical self, right? It's a lot of work. And so wouldn't it be amazing if you could just show up to work and it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you brushed your teeth that morning. And it doesn't matter if your hair hasn't been washed in 3 days. Wouldn't it be cool if you could just show up to work and make $100 an hour, and you don't have to worry about all of this other stuff that kind of gets in the way? It's really, really liberating, especially as women. It's extremely liberating to be able to make so much money and replace your income and not have to go through these, societal customs or these great expectations that are placed upon us, especially as women in the workforce, Not that you have to, and if you are not someone who wears makeup and stuff like that, well then, hey, you're that's already one thing cut out for you. But for me personally, my whole transformational process of how I learned that the psychic hotlines were the best option for my business was because, I didn't have to wear slacks or high heels and kill my feet. I talk about this in the Make Tarot Your Business program. During the first module, Module Y, I talk about having actual stress fractures in my feet from wearing high heels between 10 and 12 hours per day, 5 to 6 days a week. I had stress fractures in my feet. I have so many old injuries in my feet. I can't really stand up for very long anymore because I have all of these old injuries. Running, forget about it. I can walk for about maybe an hour before my feet are like on fire and need to be up and up for a little while and take some ibuprofen or something. But yeah, so there's a lot of women out there who are dealing with this from wearing high heels for 10 years every single day. There are so many things. Anyways, but it's the best move for your business because here's the thing is when you're starting up a business, it's all about your revenue, right? It's all about your startup capital. It's all about how much you can invest into your business to make money. Now, there are not a lot of options out there that basically all you need is one tarot deck and you can start making $100 an hour. And you don't need anything besides a computer or a phone and internet and a tarot deck. There are virtually, basically no other types of business models out there other than direct sales, MLMs type of things. But even still, you still have to deal with product and shipping, and you have to order the product for the people, and usually you have to do it on your own dime, and there's no guarantee that they're actually going to pick up their product, that sort of thing. Krista says, you poor thing. Yes, well, that's the price of being a woman in business, a powerful woman in business sometimes, Not all the time, but that was my story. That was my background, and why the Psychic Hotlines were like, I can wear my pajamas and my hair up in a bun, and I can make $100 an hour? Are you kidding? What have I just done for the last 10 years of my life, right? So, where am I at here? Okay, so working on the Psychic Hotlines is the only way that I know of as a tarot reader or oracle card reader or spiritual service provider that you're going to be able to make a huge amount of money in a very short amount of time that you can invest into your business. And it's that, I didn't have a choice. I got laid off from my work for 5 months, and I had the option of going back. I ended up actually going back for 3 months, but in that 5 months that I was laid off and expecting to go back to this other location, which was even further away and more out of the way, and I didn't have my car because my car got repoed, and I was like, how is this going to work? How am I even going to get there? And I was looking into buses, which is going to cost money, and I was at that point where it was going to cost so much money just to go back to work. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to find something from home. I'm just going to give these hotlines a shot. I'm just going to try it. And what I found was that I was able to work maybe 20 to 30 hours, and I was making way more money than I ever did as a hairstylist. Downtown Kansas City, I charged $45 for just a haircut. Just a haircut, just $45. That was for a men's cut, for a clipper cut. And, I did like the straight shaves and stuff like that. It was a barbershop. And so I would be able to take, if I was really hustling that day, I would be able to maybe get about 2 guys in per hour and to do a really good job and the type of, quality that has been expected of me. But I had to pay booth rental. I had to pay for all my product. I had, clippers are expensive, clipper maintenance. I had to keep sharpening my tools, all that kind of stuff. Product is expensive. So $45 times 2 people is, $90, right? I think $90 an hour minus the cost of actually doing business, which brings it more down to about $70 an hour. Plus you have to pay taxes on that. Plus I had to pay 1% to Kansas City. Plus I had to have a car and insurance, and I had to pay for a license. So really it brings it down to more like $60 an hour on a good day. Now, and I had all of these other business expenses. So when I actually got to the Psychic Hotlines and I started out making like around $20 an hour or so, but I had zero business costs. The only thing I had to pay was my internet, which I was going to pay that anyway because who doesn't have internet? And that was it. All I had to pay was my internet. I already had my tarot deck that was given to me, and I already had a computer, which most of us do. Most of us have a computer or a smartphone. So the ability to make $20 an hour when I was just starting out, and on Keen they can tip you. A lot of people actually gave me tips on Keen, so that was like added to it, It was just amazing. It was the most amazing thing. And then as I started investing more time and I learned how to write a really good profile, and I got a little bit of experience, and after that 5 months was up, I was making about $100 an hour on the Psychic Hotlines. And I ended up going back to my job for about 3 months or so, back to the new salon because, of course, it was a gigantic mess and they couldn't do anything without me. They couldn't do a damn thing without me because I knew where all the product was. I knew all of, I knew the computer. I was the only one there that knew how to run the freaking credit card machine. Like, that's a problem. That is a problem. And so I came back for 3 months, and I was like, I'm just, not even 3 months. It was a little under 3 months. And it was extremely slow because nobody really wanted to drive from the town that he opened the salon up was in a totally, completely different town than all of the other 3 salons. And I was like, oh my God, what are you thinking? What is this? And it was extremely slow, as grand openings usually typically are. And I was only getting like maybe 3 haircuts in an 8-hour period. And I was like, I did this for 3 months. And he paid me a little bit extra, maybe like $50 a week extra, just to kind of run things and do the computer and make sure all the books are right and things like that. And all I really wanted to do was just go home and work on my computer and just read tarot cards all day and talk about tarot cards to people. So she says, I eventually want to do Keen when they open it up. I have a feeling they're going to open it up eventually. Keen is one of those ones that's been around for so long that they've been doing, over the last 2 years, they've been doing so many upgrades on their system. So I think they're kind of working some things out, and then I am predicting, my psychic abilities here, I'm predicting that they're going to do some type of like reopening, or they're going to reopen their business or something like that. That's where I see it going. And so I was bringing my tarot cards to work, and I was playing around with them, and I was doing readings for the girls there, and the barbershop was owned by a evangelistic preacher. And so I had to wait till he was gone, and then, we would secretly do tarot readings for one another. And then, one day I walked in, and this is the story too. One day I walked in, and I was like, I got this impression, the psychic impression, because I had been working my psychic abilities on the lines, right? And I've been working at that psychic muscle. And I was like, something bad is about to happen. I can't stay here anymore. I packed up all my stuff. I had about $1,000 maybe worth of tools and products, scissors, clippers. I have Oster clippers. They're very expensive. They're $400. My, my scissors were about $350-ish, and I had a couple pairs of those. Marissa says, I once did a reading for a person who was stuck in another country with no money. Is that considered to be a typical reading on Hotline? The thing is that there's really no typical reading on a hotline. I mean, there is to an extent of, like, most of the questions are predictable, like when, if, that sort of thing. But the psychic hotlines are really like a wild card when it comes to, I've done the most bizarre, there's readings that I've done that I just can't make up because they're the most bizarre thing. The psychic hotlines will never allow you to be bored because there's always someone out there whose life is way more fucked up than yours is, and they're calling the psychic hotline to get some help. So in a way, is it typical? Yes, because it's outrageous and it's weird and it's fun and it's interesting. Is it typical in such a way that I've gotten readings like that before? Like that exact type of reading? No, I haven't gotten that one. But I've gotten some other ones. And a lot of the time, Heather and Maria and Charlene and I will all trade. I got this really weird one today. And we'll talk about all these weird readings that we get. So I had that bad feeling, right? And I was like, I just want to go home, and I just want to read tarot for people, and I don't want to wear high heels anymore, and I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to make someone else money and be the one who runs a business and not get paid for it, right? So I packed up all my stuff. I went home, and I told my husband, and he was very upset with me. And I applied for a random that same day video readings because I was on Keen, but I wanted something else too because I really wanted to, I saw I had worked on Spiritum very briefly, and I worked on Spiritum and Keen at the same time. Spiritum, it was a total scam. I've never worked for a hotline before that was a scam, and I've worked for a lot of them other than Spiritum. Spiritum owed me hundreds of dollars, maybe even upwards of $1,000 that they never paid me. And they kept telling me the check was coming, or we're going to send it out. And, this went on for like 3 months, and finally I wrote them a very nasty letter and told them to basically fuck off, and I'll be telling everybody that they're a scam and stuff like that. And Spiritum's the only one. So I was only working on Keen at that point, and I had worked on Spiritum. I kind of liked the whole video platform because I had been in the entertainment industry before. I talked about before in this group that I used to do burlesque, and so I had been in the entertainment industry before, and I really liked that. I liked being an entertainer. I actually have a Leo rising, which is the entertainer, the comedian, and so I had been in burlesque before, and I really missed that social aspect, and a video always kind of called out to me. So I applied on Random that day, and I went through my Random. Back then they required that you had to do an interview, and I went through that within a couple days. Within 72 hours I was on a Random. But anyway, so I started working on a Random in Keen, and when Keen was slow, I would just log out of there and I would go on a Random and just pop in and try to get some video readings. That is terrible that they did that to you. I'm a Leo rising. Yeah, it sucks, but that's why we're doing the webinar, because we learn the hard lessons so that you don't have to. We made all the mistakes so that you can literally avoid most of those mistakes. And so I was driving around town. I had to go out there because they had just opened up a Indian restaurant, and I was craving butter chicken. The burlesque. Oh yeah, burlesque was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I still kind of miss it sometimes, but it's apples to oranges. It's how do you want to spend your time, right? And burlesque is really, you sell shows. It's very difficult to make some sort of passive income or something like that from burlesque, but it was a lot of fun. And I don't want to wear heels anymore. Screw it. I'm done. So I did that for a long time, and I was going with my husband, and we were going out to this Indian restaurant because I used to get the butter chicken. The building that I used to work in is called the City Center Square building downtown. It's the tallest building, I believe, in Kansas City, and I worked on the second floor. Well, the first floor, you walk in, and then you go down these escalators, and there's this huge food court. So I would get butter chicken all the time. It was my favorite thing. So I was really craving it, and we went and drove past where the new salon was going to be, because it just happened to be on the way. It's all about these synchronicities, right? It's all about these weird things that happen. And we drove by, and the salon was closed. It was completely gone. I didn't see any signs. The sign was taken down. I told my husband, pull in there. We got to go look at this real quick. And so we pulled in the parking lot. I looked in there, and there was nothing. There was no chairs. There was no stations. It was completely gone. So this was less than a week after I just walked out. I put in my notice, but I actually I said I was going to give it 2 more weeks, and I just didn't show up because I'm an asshole sometimes like that. But I couldn't be there anymore. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it. I couldn't spend another 2 weeks doing them a favor when they've done nothing for me at that point. So less than a week later, this salon was completely gone overnight, the barbershop gone. If I had not followed my intuition and just followed what my intuition was telling me, follow my joy, follow what feels good, what is fun to me, which is working on the Psychic Hotlines, then I would have been in that same situation where I would have been laid off all over again. You know what I mean? I would have had to go through that heartbreak all over again. And in this way, Spirit was empowering me to make my own decision, right? And so I just feel so passionately about it. I don't really like the timeline mind reader questions. They still do. Susie says I had to do a written test and video reading. Oh, okay. It's not bad. The random test basically just, whenever you do if you do a random video, psychic readings, if you're really, really interested in it, and you like video, you like getting on video, or it's something that you want to do but you're kind of scared, a random is a really great way to kind of get introduced to that. Basically what they're looking for is that you have some type of tool and that you have a good internet speed, and they're just looking for a good background. They just don't want your bedroom to be in the background or something. You have to have some sort of spiritual, metaphysical type of background to be able to get your interview. And they just want to see that you can handle this. Oh, Alex says I really don't like the timeline mind reader questions. So when it comes to timelines, in most cases, there's there are people who specialize in timelines that are really good at them and stuff like that, but if you're not really good at them, then at that point just make it up. Because the thing is if someone comes into your chat room and a psychic hotline or something, and they're like, when is this going to happen? And you're like, I don't know, I don't do timelines, blah, blah, blah. Those people are just going to be pissed at you because they've, in their opinion, they wasted their time with you. Okay? So I know it feels weird to make something up, but here's how you have to kind of think about it. Don't look at your timelines through your tarot. Get your timeline through your intuition. And what it really comes down to is that you don't trust your intuition, right? So another thing too, who cares if you're wrong? Who cares? Just give people what they want. Be the magic 8-ball, right? That's what Charlene says. Be the magic 8-ball. Give them the answer. Make it up. How do you know it's not your intuition that's telling you this? Obviously, if you're going to get something that comes to your brain and it's a date in the future, how do you know that it's not your intuition? How do you know you're just making it up? A lot of the times, if you've done any type of psychic development, you don't make anything up. There's nothing that you make up. It's all intuitive. Whether you're accurate or not, whether it happens or not, that's a totally different thing. Because you can give, in that moment, an accurate timeline, but then there's this whole argument with just having a reading about a timeline skews the timeline. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. So just if you can't get a timeline out of your cards, ask Spirit. Spirit, what is the timeline? Okay, a date should pop up in your head. There's your timeline. Alex says, the woman who came after me was all pissed because the timeline didn't happen. Now I feel gushy. Well, the thing with that is that you're just going to have to grow some thick skin and just deal with it. Because you can only control how you show up, and yeah, it hurts. It really does hurt your feelings when people make it out to be like, you are wrong, and blah, 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 blah. What you have to understand is those people are often misguided. They're usually mentally ill. They've placed too much belief into tarot and psychic abilities and things like that. And, it's almost, you have to think about it this way. You're almost doing them a favor, because maybe if they have a lot of bad experiences, maybe they'll stop asking for the timelines and maybe they'll actually do something with their life instead of asking when things are going to happen. So it all goes back to there are levels to helping people. It's like Inception, in a way, if you've seen that movie. There are levels to helping people. How you help people might not be in the way that they want the help in that moment, but you have to believe intrinsically that what you are doing is helping people, whether that it manifests in your vision or their vision. It's like when you're trying to find the real truth of a situation. You have their story and you have your story, and somewhere the truth is somewhere in the middle. So it's like that with psychic readings, especially doing any type of prediction or timeline. So what I would say to you is just to follow your intuition, get that intuitive timeline, and try your best to detach from whether or not it's accurate or not. Because at that point, who cares, right? If you believe that having a reading is going to skew the timeline, then it's already done. It's already messed up. There are so many things between that reading and the time that timeline happens. There are so many things that can happen that can change the outcome of that reading. The fact that any timeline is accurate, I think it is a miracle in itself. My timelines tend to be about a 50-50 shot. Just going to be honest. I've had timelines that were accurate. I've had timelines that were like totally off. I remember my actual first timeline that was actually like a real thing. I had someone ask me when they were going to get a job. It was a local friend. It was a local reading that I did for someone, and I used Lenormand. And then the timing section was the moon. And they asked when they were going to get a job, and I said, well, within a month, right? So here's what happens. The person got an interview for another job as a chef. He got canned 3 days after he got hired, and the whole time he was employed, well, I guess you were wrong. I got it in 2 weeks. Look at me, blah, 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 right? And so they love to come back and tell you how you're wrong. And sometimes they'll do it with the reviews and things like that. He got sacked 3 days later. A month later from the original reading is when he actually got hired on. He's been at this job now for 3 years. Okay? So there's so much disconnect between what you actually tell people, what you see, what your psychic impression is, versus what actually happens to them. And it's just, people suck. That's all I can really say about it. Susie says, here's the thing with that. It's for entertainment purposes only. So you have to readjust your thought process. And you can say, well, you weren't open yet to receive. That's a lot of it. Heather says, if someone says the timeline didn't come true, I blame it to them. I ask them what they did to change the timeline. Yeah. So it's all about how you work it. And Heather's really good at this. Heather's really good at flipping it to, change how the dialogue is going. She's taught me a lot about that. So when it comes to timelines and stuff like that, you just got to learn how to flip it. You can't let it eat you up. It might eat you up a little bit. That's okay. That's normal. Those bad feelings that oh my God, I suck. I'm a terrible tarot reader. That's the sort of feelings that you get is totally normal. Everybody feels that way. If you don't feel that way, then you're probably a sociopath. That's just the truth of it. And the reason why it hits us so hard, why it's such a painful, traumatic experience, number one, is because you almost in a way get punished for helping people, for doing the good thing. So, and psychology based, we always remember the one negative thing that hurts 10 times more than we're going to remember the 10 positive readings that we do that actually change people's lives, right? Number two, the psychic hotlines are a thankless job. Don't expect people to thank you. Don't expect them to come back and give you a really great review. Some of them will. Some of them will change their review once things have kind of manifested on. But in the general scope of things, it's a very thankless job. But you're getting shit tons of money, so that makes it worth it, right? You have to change your perspective on what your priority is. Now, the thing about the hotlines is, what I'm going off on this really long tangent is, so he just says, flip that shit. You have to learn how to flip it. That's what it's called, energetic kung fu. That's what being an alchemist is. That's what transmuting those lower energies to the higher energies really is. That's part of it, where we have to really go on our spiritual journey, and that's where we learn to flip the energy and the whole alchemy of the situation and transmute that energy to the highest good for all involved. That's our personal responsibility. Where we get very mixed up is that our clients are not obligated to those same responsibilities as we are, right? Which makes it difficult, because it's almost kind of like you're trying to help someone that doesn't really want the help. But they do, otherwise they wouldn't call. They don't, most of the time they don't even know what they want, right? They kind of just want a little bit of hope. They want to know it's okay. They want to hear something that's going to get them through the next week of their lives, that sort of thing. So the psychic hotlines are one really great way that you can make a bunch of cash really quickly and be able to invest in your business. If you really want to build up your own business, like I did, this is what I did. I'll just tell you right now. So I worked on the psychic hotlines for about 2 years, and in my downtime between calls, I got my Etsy shop set up, and I started working on my own website. So I used the psychic hotlines for what it was, which is the cash generating thing that it is, for capital, to invest in a good webcam, to invest in a good computer, to invest in software and a good microphone, to buy a couple more decks. All of these things that will help you expand your business, to buy, coaching packages, to buy business school, that type of stuff. So use to take tarot classes, to get your certifications, to learn more, to buy books. Your hotline money is how you're going to expand your business much faster versus trying to build your own business online through your own website by yourself. The coolest thing about the psychic hotlines is that there's a reason why they only pay you about 50%. And that reason is because they spend thousands, if not millions of dollars per year advertising so that you don't have to. If you've ever run your own business, then you know how difficult it is to drive traffic to your own business. You know that you have to show up every single day, you have to hustle, you have to pay for AdWords. It gets expensive. Running your own business gets expensive, especially if you're not graphically design inclined, if you have you can't make your own graphics, if your copywriting sucks, these other things that you typically either have to learn, or you have to pay a business coach, or you have to pay for a course to learn how to do. So if you're coming and you have no entrepreneurial experience at all, then the psychic hotlines are going to be the answers to your prayers, because that's going to enable you to save up some money so that you can have some forward momentum in your business. It is so difficult to start your own website. I'm just going to be totally honest. And to be able to start making $100 an hour off your own website, I would venture to say that it's almost impossible if you don't have some sort of stream of revenue to be able to put towards advertising and to build up your own business. Susie says, I'm using the hotline money to boost my business and buy coaching with Heather. Maria says, so true, advertising and marketing and everything is so expensive. And yeah, it is. It's expensive and it's a full-time job. So a lot of people who get into this business, or any online business, really, their first thought is, okay, all I'm going to do is show up and do readings. And I'll just set up shop and people are just going to line up and I'll have it all. And I won't have to work for it. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it actually happens. You have to market relentlessly. You have to constantly tweak your marketing and your advertising, and you have to have some type of advertising fund or budget, that sort of stuff. Maria says you need a team of people to run a website. You do. Either that or you're going to work like I do or did, for the longest time, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You're going to spend half your time marketing and half your time actually making money. You'll spend half your time spending money and half your time making money. And hopefully, at the end of the week, you have more profit than you have loss. So the hotlines are the best way to stockpile just tons and tons and tons of money that you can choose to put into your business if you want to get off the hotlines. It's your motivation to get off the hotlines. If you hate hotline readings and you don't like the clients and you want to focus on empowerment, cool. Build your own business. But I'm going to tell you, it's not going to happen in a week. If you're really lucky, it might happen after a year. You might actually start seeing some profit. It takes most businesses up to 5 years to turn a legitimate profit. It takes most businesses at least 1 year to start seeing any profit whatsoever. Most businesses are a complete money dump. And so the Psychic Hotlines are the smartest strategy. Even though you might not entirely like the clients, even though they might not be the empowerment clients that you really want, even though you might not feel like you're really doing anything significant or changing people's lives or anything like that, the Psychic Hotlines are your ticket to building your own business. Or you could just decide, if you just want to be a tarot reader, you could just decide that the hotlines are enough for you. I don't want to, say you don't want to market, say you don't want to learn Photoshop, so you don't want to learn Canva, you don't want to have to learn copywriting, you don't want to have to learn marketing, you don't want to have to go to business school, you don't want to have to go to sales school. Cool, stay on the hotlines, right? Then you'll figure it out from there. Alex says, I really like doing galleries. Galleries are a really great way. You could totally supplement your income half on the hotlines and do local galleries in your community, right? And you could skip the whole online website thing altogether. I don't recommend that because I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you do, because you really want to focus on nurturing that relationship with your client, because it's like what I said in that one live streaming that we did just a couple weeks ago. If you focus on nurturing your clients, if you focus on setting up your funnels, your opt-ins, your educational blog posts, setting up your whole entire sales funnel, that $3,000 client that took you 3 months to get might actually turn into a $20,000 client over the course of the next 5 years. So it's about wealth creation. I don't recommend not having a website or sales funnel or learning sales, that sort of stuff, but can you do it without it? Yes, totally, for sure. Kai says, I feel that. I love having them get the clients for me. Right, that's what it is, that you literally pay them half of your money to go get the clients. You don't have to do any marketing. All you have to do is show up. And there are virtually no other work from home opportunities out there where you can literally just show up to work and make that much money in that short amount of time. Okay, so Susie wanted to know about a random. We're going to probably end the live stream here pretty soon because I have my own coaching call to go to tonight with my coach. So I'm going to get my upgrade on the full moon. And, okay, so a random. So I'm putting together a free gift for the Psychic Hotlines. Hold on, let me get this link for you because it's so important that you sign up. Most of you are probably already signed up for the Psychic Hotline webinar that we're doing on Wednesday. And if you aren't signed up, then you're going to definitely want to sign up because we're going to be giving away a whole bunch of free gifts. So please make sure you sign up for there. And I don't know why the stupid featured image is not working. You have to pick your battles sometimes, right? You have to choose what's more important to focus on. So make sure you sign up for that. I'm going to be giving away, we're going to be giving away we're going to talk about, on the Psychic Hotlines, we're going to talk about creating your persona, which, as an ex-burlesque dancer, as an person in the entertainment industry as well, coming up with a persona is a very natural thing for me. It's basically like acting. It's like developing your own acting personality, your own acting persona. And that was key to really changing how the Psychic Hotlines worked for me, because I created a persona that could deal with the Psychic Hotlines, right? She had her own mannerisms, she had her own attitude, she had her own catchphrases. She had, she had a totally different look than I do. She handled conflict a lot differently than maybe Christina does. So we're going to teach you how to create this persona. In reality, it's a very, very high level of magic. It is called thought form magic. It's where you are creating this vessel, this container, you're creating this magical archetype of all these things that you wish that you could be, or all of these things that you want to be or want to represent. And we're going to help you create that magical vessel, that thought form, and we're going to help you invoke that thought form every single time you log into the Hotlines. So then you can compartmentalize your personal goals for your business and your goals, your priorities for the Hotlines in that moment. And it's a very magical but also practical way of learning how to take yourself out of yourself and to invoke your higher self in a way to be able to handle these Hotlines in a more effective way. I'm also going to give you I'm working on right now, it's a little ebook that I'm just putting together, and it's about 3 tips that I'm going to give you about how to basically charge a lot more for your video readings. So those of you who like doing video readings, I know Susie, you're working on a random. I know Susan Moore is also applied to a random. So I have a couple clients that are working on a random or wanting to work on a random. I have a lot of tips. I'm probably going to go over it more in the webinar. These tips won't necessarily be in this free mini thing that I'm going to give you, but in this free little book I'm going to give you is if you want to get on video, and this goes for also live streaming, it goes for recording videos of readings to give to clients, doing live readings, as face-to-face as you possibly can virtually. I'm going to give you all of my tech specs. I'm going to give you all of the webcams that I like, the software that I use. I'm going to show you, I'm doing 2 mini training videos on how to actually set up the software, that sort of thing. And I'm going to give you some very, very simple tips that you can start really increasing your value as a video psychic, because that's sort of my niche. I really respond well to the whole video thing, and I did video readings forever on a random for years. I was on there at least 2 years full time. Full time there I consider like 25 hours a week as a psychic, 24 hours a week or so. So let's see what else. I'm probably sure that some of the ladies are going to give you some other little gifts. There's going to be some other goodies and stuff, so definitely please come if you are at all serious or interested in working on the Psychic Hotlines. We're going to give you a very real account. We're going to tell you all of the things that you really need to know so you can get started making money right away. Another thing that I hear a lot too is that people start on the Hotlines and it's like crickets for them. And there's this very specific reasons why that is the way that it is, and we're going to talk about that on Wednesday. So please make sure you come. Heather says, I use my persona to sell. Yeah, so this technique that we're going to show you, you can literally apply it to just about anything, not just the Psychic Hotlines, but you're going to be able to use that for sales calls. You're going to be able to use that for marketing, for anything that requires you to do anything that's a little bit uncomfortable or out of your comfort zone. The whole persona thought form magic thing is game changing. You just wait. You just wait. You wait. You're going to be excited. You're going to be excited. It's going to work out. You're going to make $100 an hour, and then you're going to be like, fuck, I'm going to quit my day job because this is awesome, right? So I will see everybody there. Thank you for joining me. See you in the Facebook group.